get your act together and focus on your storyline. And I think that the reason they can't is because there are too many cooks in the kitchen.
And it's sometimes I think about that too, but I think the bigger problem is that there are 22 episodes that they just have to do.
Yeah.
It's like, you could probably tell this episode in only about, you could probably tell this story, this last season in probably 12 episodes, which means just write 12 solid, meaty stories leading up to him becoming Superman.
Which would be better if almost all genre television today
but
was
when they do that...
That's why Lost cut it down to 13.
See? I mean,
But when they do that, when they do focus and get into the storytelling, my God, it's like 2 episodes in one.
No, it
as
is.
far as like that packed, a lot of progress, storyline progress tends to get made. But something I was going to say just a couple seconds ago is that about, the development of him, Clark Kent and him having Superman-type adventures as Clark Kent. That's what you need to remember. This is not a show about Superman. This is a show about Clark Kent.
Right. Which some people will still go, fuck that. When's he going to put on the cape? When's he going to fly?
I was going to say, there's been no secret that they've said since the beginning the final shot of this show is going to be him putting on the uniform and flying off. And that'll be the end because we all know what happens after that.
Yeah.
We've seen billion versions of that story.
And their tag at the beginning was no flights, no tights.
Yeah.
And so I think that they've felt slavishly stuck to that. Like, we can't go there because we
That was
no
one of my biggest
flights.
problems of everything I've read along the years was that it seems like they want to introduce everything that's happened post putting on the tights in the small boy story, and it was like, okay, well, but none of that shit happened then. I mean, I realize that there's like 8 billion different ways to reinterpret, Superman, Batman, yada yada. But even so, it's like you guys are pushing it.
No, it is.
When you're bringing in General Zod, you're like, you're pushing it.
Which, but the thing is,
but that was an awesome, there was so much good storyline.
That was a fun story. Even when you realize that they do find a way to bring it to where they're not exactly the characters we know in the continuity, because with the last few seasons you could tell that all of a sudden DC started giving them the okay to use these characters.
Yeah,
and it also it's given the writers more of a challenge to like finally kind of get in continuity with what's going on in the comics, in a way. And I think it was a hard challenge, and it wasn't their fault. It was so much the creators of the series, which the two creators, which is Mark Miller and Alfred Gaw. Those two guys were not comic book fans. They were not Superman fans. They're pretty much commissioned to do a show because they just needed a superhero show.
Television.
WB wanted a superhero show, and they're like, hey, they were working on a racer. They were doing a TV series based off the Schwarzenegger movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were doing a TV series.
They're like,
based on
we'll
that.
do anything.
Yeah, and they were like, well, we seen what you guys shot for that. Would you be interested in doing a Superman series? And they're like, all right, well, let's go through the material of Superman because we're not fans, and let's see what we can do. And one of the things that they didn't want to do was, to have him flying and being in costume, because I think at the time, I don't know if they thought it was silly or if they thought it would be a big budget.
Yeah.
Well, they weren't the first person to make that decision either. I mean, the Adventures of Lois and Clark had done the exact same thing when they went into it in the first season, and then a bunch of not terribly smart producers got involved in the second season and said, no, you should probably just go ahead and have him do Superman shit. And that's when the show went downhill.
Yeah, that show premiered the same time as Batman the Animated Series, because I remember being at Comic-Con in Dallas where they showed both of them back to back, the previews for them. And it was just like, wow, this is a new age. And man, that first season of Lois and Clark
is great.
It really is great. It was such a great romantic comedy between these two. I mean, it would only go down when he would change into Superman, but those bits would be 10 minutes tops.
And they would it was
like moonlighting
over
almost.
Yeah, it was very much, and there was no question that's what they were going after.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious because I think I was like in season 3 or 4 of Smallville, and you told me you recommended that to me. Where I'm like, I don't think that'd be a show for me. But I was like, fuck it. If if you're recommending it to me, I'll check it out. And I actually did enjoy it. Yeah. Even though it makes me think, wow, I wish that series had the budget that Smallville had, just to really flesh out the special effects. Because when you see the special effects in Lois and Clark, you're just like, wow, this is very bad, like soap opera, like special effects.
It's wire work, and that's it. With guys who don't know how to do wire work.
And it was the kind of thing where it was they would just do it very sparingly in the first season, and then by the second season they were like, hey, this thing is popular, let's keep doing more of this. And it's like, no, don't. It was just villain of the week.
They missed the point entirely of why it was a great show in the first season. But all right, so I know we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, but I want to. I'm going to corner you guys. I'm going to do this. I know you hate this, but tell me what is the single best moment of Smallville, and what is the single worst moment of Smallville?
Wow. Okay.
Let's just
go ahead, Kat.
Okay, start with Kat.
I'll start with the worst. The worst moment of Smallville is that bachelor party episode, the where we have Justin Hartley, who plays Green Arrow, dressed up as a Vegas showgirl. And a really bad camera angle that shoots right up his skirt.
Hold up. What episode? Let me write this down.
They just reran it this week. That was really, I mean, honestly, I hung my head and like put it in my hands. And I was like, oh God.
Even though he did a great job of kicking ass dressed up.
He did. Like I mean, but it seemed like an excuse to like somebody. He must have pissed off somebody on the show.
Lost a bet.
The best moment is in the end of it's the last shot of an episode with, I think it was in season 3, when Lex Luthor is committed to the mental hospital. And he's sitting there in the corner of the cell with like the glass, you know, like the one-way glass, and he's in a straitjacket and he's sitting in the corner and he's rocking back and forth, and Johnny Cash's Hurt is playing. And it was this moment like in the end of the episode, because it's one of those things like he is not insane, but they've convinced him that he's going insane.
Yeah.
And they've put him in I'm trying to remember, Belle Reve. Belle Reve is the name of the mental hospital. And they've thrown him in Belle Reve. And and Johnny Cash is playing, and he's sitting there, and I was like, oh my God, that was the most gut-wrenching moment of the entire series for me.
Oh wow. All right. Well, I actually have two. Anytime Clark has to go up against like vampires or witches, which those are like the worst. But actually,
anytime they use the purple sound or special effect.
Yeah. Like I think it was season 4, episode 8, called Spell. Where it's like the three characters,
the witches,
Lana, Lois, and Chloe are witches. They're possessed by these witches.
And they crossover with Charm.
That's exactly what it was. It was because the one thing about Smallville is they're notorious for stealing other like ideas from like popular TV shows and also movies. So like they have their Charmed episode, they have their Nip and Tuck episode. I mean,
there's an episode where Clark goes to community college.
The
6 Misfits.
They actually did have
one where
reference movies the whole time.
They definitely
where he steals a bunch of money and has to kill his partner.
and the one where he becomes a meth dealer and he gets a little RV where they're cooking it up out in the desert.
The funny thing is, you guys are joking about this, but every time you talk, I'm like, there was an episode of that. There really was.
And then they went to this island.
But there was an episode where Lex was on an island like Lost. Where he
wasn't an island like Lost.
No, he was on an island, but you could tell they were like, it was kind of ripping off Lost. But he was going crazy.
He was just stranded on an island.
Not such a Smallville after.
But why do y'all let him do that?
I'm sorry. That's your friend. But with Spell, like, there's an odd, as terrible as an episode is, it does get you in the mood like, oh fuck, Superman versus witches. Let's see how this fucking plays out. And there's almost like an Evil Dead moment where these witches like have like they're in the barn. There's like saws coming at Clark, and Clark's just kind of standing there like,
swallow
fuck
this.
Yeah, exactly. Swallow this. Or he's using his like fucking heat vision to knock all this shit out of the air, and I'm like, fuck yeah, but. Overall, it's a fucking terrible episode, and it gives an excuse to have him like have the girls strip Clark completely of his clothes and hanging like crucified on the barn. But,
right, Jesus Clark.
Yeah, that and Thirst, where Lana becomes a vampire. She somehow manages to suck the blood out of Clark, so she gets, not only is she a vampire, but she has Kryptonian abilities.
Wow.
Where you see her incinerate a vampire with her heat vision, which was pretty badass though.
I swear to God, throughout this discussion, you guys have like made me go, "Ooh, I need to watch this show."
And then you're going, "Oh God, no!"
No, those are the words.
Full circle to even more so not wanting.
Yeah,
to
well,
watch
let me tell you.
Coach, what's your best? I want to know what your best moment is.
Okay, this is hard because any real story dealing with Lex and Clark's relationship. I'll say there was a episode. It was in season 7. It was like the last season that Michael Rosenbaum was in before he left. There's an episode called Fracture, where it's an episode based where Clark basically has to go into the memory of Lex to try to save him, where he's having this dilemma between the good Lex, like in this dream type world in Lex's head. There's the monster that is Lex Luthor, and there is the young version of Lex, who they call Alexander. He's like the innocence, like the one thing that Clark has been trying to save, as far as trying to save his friend.
It's all that potential that Lex has.
Yeah, and the thing is, you see the older Lex trying to kill this little boy who's himself, and you see Clark seeing bits and pieces of Lex's past, understanding how he became to be. And there's like a real like sad moment where, you know, he goes up to the little Alexander and he's like, tells him, you know, I want you to keep fighting to be who you are my friend, and I'll always be here for you. And it was a very like Superman moment. Yeah, with just him, like you really could see, like, you know, he was really trying his best to save his friend, even though
that sounds pretty good.
It seems like a lost cause.
I'll tell you, I like that a lot because in the pretty much the entirety of the Superman universe and its various different interpretations, we never really see a Lex Luthor that is what Superman seems to see in him. Mm-hmm. Like, they just assure us that Superman sees this good side of him, but we never really see that. And we're like, no, he's a dick. You are like the most naive idiot ever, Clark. Get over it.
I know, again, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That is what kept me going on this show. Right from the beginning through it. I was really sad when Michael Rosenbaum left the show.
Sure.
Because to me, the Lex Luthor character arc was the best thing about the entire show, because those writers made you believe, like, you know that Lex is going to turn out to be the Lex Luthor that we all love to hate, but they make you hope that just maybe he'll turn out okay.
Because he's so likable.
Just maybe. No, not just because he's so likable, but because you see that motivation. You see that all the wrong choices, it's that whole, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
He has every good intention in the world for a long time. And all of these decisions that he's making, it's like he's trying to do the right thing and he just doesn't know how.
That's exactly how this podcast got started.
And well, then maybe we'll end up ruling the world. Excellent.
Or getting our asses handed to us by Superman every week.
And so there's kind of a Christmas episode that I think is one of the better Christmas episodes. Kind of like it's a Wonderful Life type thing. It's the alternate, like the life that Lex could have. He's shown two different. He has a moment to make a choice. And he has shown this is what will happen if you make choice A, and this is what will happen if you make choice B. And it's like the good ending and the bad ending. And he ends up choosing the bad ending, but he chooses it for all the right reasons.
Wow, that's interesting.
You know, he chooses it thinking like, but that really will turn out. It can't turn out that badly. It really will be okay.
Let me ask you, didn't Jeff Johns actually write an episode or two?
Yes,
he's written. He's been writing a bunch of them. He's actually, I think, when Smallville's coming back on the.
He wrote that Bachelor episode.
What is it? No, he didn't.
It's on the 13th or so.
Wait, I think it's like the 18th or something. Yeah, but the second episode, when they come back to it, it's going to be a Booster Gold Blue Beetle episode.
Yeah. Good Lord.
Which the guy who's playing Booster Gold, he looks spot on. I mean, you look at the pictures and you're like, are they making a Booster Gold movie?
That's crazy.
Yeah,
well,
but
I know Jeff Johns is a big Booster Gold fan.
Yeah. I just actually one of the you guys were giving away.
Yeah, Randy came and brought us a bunch of graphic novels.
I picked up the Jeff Johns.
Me too.
Yeah,
there's multiple copies of that one.
His episodes haven't been my favorites.